All my teachers used to tell me that I had potential, but I never knew my talent, that was confidential. Life was never feeling right until
What's
I
up,
grabbed
everybody?
the pencil.
Welcome back to the Serje podcast. Again, shout out to Sean Stacks for letting us use his music on here. Today's topic, we're going to be talking about teaching, caring for others, exercising, all that kind of stuff. So y'all stick around. And without further ado, let's introduce our guest for today. Associate Dean of the Language and Literatures at Wayland Baptist University, Dr. Joshua Mora.
How's everybody doing?
Hey, Dr. Mora. So we'll start off, like always, with a little bit of your background. Why don't you go ahead and share that with us?
Okay. I come from a family of 13. I'm the youngest of 13, and my family originally came from Mexico. My parents, my father was actually born in the U.S. They told us because of the Mexican Revolution. He was born in 1920. He was born in Pueblo, Colorado, but then they actually went back to Mexico and grew up in Mexico. I mean, he was Mexican. Completely. My mother, she came from Juarez, and my mother came here, as we call it today, illegally, undocumented, and she lived that way for a long time. And eventually she got her residency and became a U.S. citizen there. I grew up in Lubbock. The story is that my parents wandered around in Wyoming, Colorado, Nebraska. My brothers were born out there in those parts of the country. And the story is that my parents were headed back to Mexico, and Lubbock was as far as they got. And so they stayed there. They ended up staying there, and so the rest of us were born there in Lubbock. Only my oldest brother was born in Mexico. So he came illegally with my mother as well, or as we say today, undocumented. And then I stayed there and went to school there in Lubbock, and went to Texas Tech, got my degrees there, and then started teaching as a PhD, and wandered around and ended up here at Wayland in 2000. Both my parents have passed away, and my three oldest brothers have passed away. So we're an old family, and so here I am at Wayland after 19 years, 18 years, 19 years. And so, but there's a lot more, but that's in a nutshell.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. You pretty much stayed in Lubbock after your parents kind of settled there. Instead of doing what a lot of people do and kind of try to get out of their hometown, you stayed there. You went to Tech. You studied to teach. Was teaching always your target into what you were getting your degree in, or did you start out with something and then just ended up with teaching?
Well, let me answer both those questions there. Part of the reason I stayed in Lubbock, a lot of it has to do with the Mexican culture. As you know, a lot of Mexican kids, children, however you want to call it, we stay longer around our family and our parents there. Now, after my father passed away in 84, I finished my master's degree, and then I did go to UNM in Albuquerque to go get my PhD there. So I had planned to do that, but what happened is I got sick while I was there. I got hepatitis, and so I came back to Lubbock because I actually got a pretty severe case of it. And I just stayed in Lubbock. My father had passed away. My mother was there, so wanted to be around my mother, take care of her. No, interestingly enough, no, I never had teaching in my mind. I mean, I remember when I was a kid, I would play as a teacher like a lot of kids do. Yeah. But to say that I went to college to be a teacher, no. It was kind of a funny story how it happened. When I had about 90 some odd hours, I hadn't chosen a major yet, and I'd been taking some Spanish hours, and I guess they had me as undeclared or undecided in the Spanish department. So I remember Dr. Andrews, I went for advising for the next semester. He told me, you've got 90 some odd hours, you need to choose a major. Well, I'd been taking Spanish courses all along, and so I said, well, let's just do Spanish. I mean, believe it or not, it was just that simple. I mean, I had majored in other stuff, but I didn't like it. Psychology, political science, math, history. But once I took an upper level course, I thought that's not for me. Well, then when we got to be 82, April of 82, there was a friend that I had who was also a Spanish major. His name was Tony Kingry. Still remember him. And we were sitting outside the UC, and he asked me, what are you going to do? And I remember thinking, this is 1982. I don't know, what does a person do with a Spanish degree? Today the world's opened up, and there's a lot of things you can do with it. But I was like, and then he says, well, I've got some friends in graduate school. Why don't we do graduate school? And I'll be honest with you, I had no idea what graduate school was. I mean, none. I thought, well, let's go to graduate school. We went and got the applications. We applied. My grades were okay. I had done well in a graduate school. I was admitted. Then in graduate school, you start teaching. You become a teaching assistant. And I remember the first semester I was woeful. I was just the worst teacher, the worst. I didn't know what I was doing. But I fell into it, and I really started falling in love with it. I found that I had, I don't know, just a natural ability, a natural talent, maybe whatever you want to call it, to be able to relate with students there. And here I am, 30 some odd years later.
Yeah, I really like how you ended that. How you talked about your students, because I know firsthand I've had you in class and you're really caring. Mostly here at Wayland, classes are smaller than at a bigger university, but you make that personal relationship with your students, and that's really big to you, because you want us to understand that we can relate to you, that you were our age once, and what we go through in our personal life outside of family, like drama, all that kind of stuff that we all happen to go through. As you're teaching, right, you're telling us how you never had education in your mind. You went to graduate school, became a teacher assistant, and then you kind of saw that you fell into that you were actually good at it. Through that time being a teacher assistant to the point where you actually became a PhD and then a teacher after at university, what were some of the hardships that you went through in that time?
I don't know that I had that many hardships, to be honest with you. Probably the most difficult one is, like a lot of students, is being able to pay for it. It's kind of hard. You're always scared about, are you going to get a job? And you don't get paid much as a teaching assistant today. They call them, I believe, GPTIs, graduate part-time instructors. And so at times you have to get student loans and things of that nature. I mean, that's difficult. I think some of the hardships are actually learning. Now, most of the time to teach at the university level, when you become a master's student and you teach, you don't take education courses. We took one methods class. It was called Methods of Teaching a Foreign Language. But it's not like at the undergraduate level, where if you're going to teach, you take 30 some odd hours of education courses. So I think, if anything, that was probably one of the hard ones, is learning what works. And I think one of the other ones was learning that, knowing that just because you speak the language doesn't mean that you know your grammar to be able to teach the students there. So I had to teach myself a lot of stuff that probably a lot of those who were non-native speakers, didn't take for granted like I did. But I have to be honest with you. Beyond that, I don't know. I would be lying if I said there were hardships in the teaching area. If we're talking specifically teaching, I've been very fortunate that, like I said earlier, I kind of fell into something that felt really natural, that I didn't know until I got in there that I had a passion for. So I was really very fortunate at two of the first universities where I taught. I was professor of the year and things of that nature, so I don't, as far as that goes, I can't say that I really had hardships in the teaching area. It all, thanks to God, it all fell into place. It's just, I think, where I really should have been.
That's awesome that you didn't, in that area, have a lot of hardships and stuff like that. I know a lot of people may have some difficulty when they're in school, all that kind of thing, all that kind of stuff. But you were very fortunate of having something that you're super passionate about. Now, moving subjects, I know the other day we were talking and hanging out, and I just told you, like, besides my dad, you're just like him in the fact that you're so positive all the time. It takes a lot for you to show any other emotion besides positivity, And why is that? How is that? Some people might look at you and be like, why is this guy always happy? How is this guy always happy? Things like that, But why don't we touch up a little on that?
Okay, that's kind of interesting. Interesting way to put it there. Well, I think there are a few defining moments in my life that brought me to that. Probably, if we go way back, like many people, when you're young, you do stupid things, and like anybody else, I did stupid things when I was younger. But I always had somebody there. Somebody always seemed to help me out there. And you slowly start learning that the small things don't matter as much. And I think even when I was younger, it may sound strange, but now when I'm talking younger, I'm not talking 15, 16, I'm talking 22, 23, when we're still young and dumb.
Yes.
Okay. A lot of young people, maybe there are some that are smart, got their life together. I was one of the typical ones that not at that age yet. I'm still in graduate school, making mistakes here and there. So that's part of it. I think the other part, and I'm not sure that we talked about this one, Fernando, was also the fact growing up very poor. We grew up very, very poor. But Fernando, one of the things that to me stood out as I grew older, when you grow up like that, you don't know you're poor. You don't know the difference. I mean, my life was basically happy. I lived, a typical childhood, I guess. I mean, whatever that is, right? Yeah. I mean, no, we weren't comfortable monetarily by any means, but I was comfortable as far as everything else goes. I mean, went to school, elementary school, junior high. There were some hardships there as far as that goes, but then later on in life, both my parents, suffered really difficult illnesses. My father, like many Hispanics, had diabetes. He went blind, lost both legs. His kidneys quit failing. He was a dialysis patient the last 4 or 5 years of his life. And he passed away during the second operation of his the second leg. And my mother, after that, she had cancer. I'm not sure I told you that. She had cancer earlier, but she survived colon cancer. But then she had a chronic case of shingles. I'm not sure a lot of people are familiar with that. I know a lot of people do know what shingles are. It's very painful. Hers was chronic, never went away. They tried all kinds of treatments for her. One time they injected some steroids in her, and they paralyzed her. But one of the things that I learned was that they both never seemed, even though we're still very poor, we never really have had much, but they both, even throughout life, seemed to enjoy life. They laughed, they joked, and I never saw them get down on themselves because of their illness. Now, my mom, admittedly, near the end, she was tired. She was 84 years old, had been dealing with that disease for about 10, 15 years. I can't remember exactly how much. Her shingles never went away. A lot of people, it goes away, the pain, and hers never did. So near the end, she was tired. She was, but she would still joke around. I always called her a modern woman. But probably also the biggest effect there was when my mother passed away. I was 44, and I realized that it was like a blink of an eye that I had my mother, and both my mother and my father were gone. And then we just happened to, shortly after that, to go to Costa Rica. And in Costa Rica, they have an expression there that they use, it's pura vida. And I realized what a beautiful life they live. It's in the jungle where we go. It's literally paradise. And I asked them one time, I said, do y'all realize that y'all live in a paradise? And they're like, yeah, that's why we say pura vida, because we know this is the life. And I don't know, they were just, like I said, slowly in life. Of course, I've always kind of been this way, right? Yeah. But then there were defining moments that made me realize that life was too short and so short, and life is meant to be enjoyed. And if my parents could enjoy their life when they were ill, I learned that having a cold, having a flat tire, whatever, you know what, those things pass. And life's too short to go around being angry, being mad. And I found out, I'm not the first one to say this, that it's true what they say. It takes more energy to go around being mad and angry than it does to being happy. And so, and I don't know. And now, Fernando, this is just who I am. I mean, but it's been a lot of things in my life that have made me realize that life is so short, and you got to enjoy every minute. Because I've reached a point now where I realize that, I'm 60 years old. I may be gone in 5-10 years. And if I live to be 80, that's 20 years? I don't know if I will. But, realistically, maybe another good 10 years, 70, 71, 75. Who knows? Yeah. But anyway, nevertheless, I've learned that it's just important to enjoy life every day.
Yeah, I can attest to the fact how you said it takes more energy to be upset than it does to just be happy. It's been a couple instances where I've seen that in myself, where something small bothers me and I get upset about it, but then I just see how much energy I'm draining out of myself from being upset, where in reality, all I have to do is just step back and turn all that negative into something I can either let go, or something I can see and say to myself, just, hey, this isn't as bad as I'm making it seem. I can fix this easily. Whether it's just fuzzing with a friend or just I didn't like someone's comment, all that kind of stuff. I can take all that in, analyze it, and take it out in a positive way, you know? But I really appreciate you sharing all that with us, you know, mostly because again, you really relate to your students. Whenever we go through something, whenever something happens, all that kind of stuff, you're there for us if we go to you for help or anything like that. I know whenever my aunt passed away, you were there for me, and you really helped me out through it, telling me, you know, that I'm not alone, that if I ever needed to come in and talk to you about it, to do it. And I did. I came in a couple times to talk to you, and I remember I just wanted to listen to the song that was played at her funeral, you know, and I did, yeah, and I shared that with you, and I was here. We both got teary-eyed and all that kind of stuff, but it was nice to have somebody there, you know, that was actually willing to do that, you know. And as teachers, I've met my fair share of teachers who actually do that, and then I've met my fair share of teachers that are, you know, kind of just here because it's their job and all that kind of stuff. But the relationships that you make with your students to you are super important, you know. I've seen that about you. That is really important to you. And why is that, you know? A lot of other teachers come in here, they do what they do, they get their paycheck, and they go home, you know. There's not a lot of teachers, professors that try to do that. A lot do, which is great because it gives the education department a great name, you know, that teachers are caring, that teachers relate to students, all that kind of stuff. Right. But for you personally, why is that so important to you?
Well, I think for several reasons. Number one is I think this is just me personally. I don't know how many other people might be able to relate to that. It's just maybe some of us are just wired that way. I don't know. Maybe we are. It's just a God-given ability, perhaps, a God-given gift to be able to relate to students and to talk to students. But I think on a human level, on a personal level, for me is that in my lifetime, like I said, you know, we've all gotten into trouble. We all do things that we shouldn't be doing. But I've always had people there for me. And when I was in college, especially in graduate school, for my master's and my PhD, I've always had some kind of professor or someone who was a role model for me. And I can pinpoint at least 3 professors that I would tell myself, I want to be like him. I want to be like her. And there was, you know, and I could name them: Dr. Bravo, Dr. Perez, Dr. McClendon, a French professor, you know. Some of them that were like me, Dr. McClendon, he wanted us to call him Wendell. Yeah. He didn't like to be called Dr. McClendon. That's like what I tell y'all, if y'all can call me Josue or Joshua. But I think also, to me, most importantly, is God, along with the people that have been there in my life, have gotten me through those hard times. And so I feel a debt to society, a debt to people, and a debt to God to give back to other people and to be there for you guys. Because, Fernando, one of the things that I've realized, there's not just, and it's not because you're smart or anything, it's only because you've lived, that there's not many things that y'all are going to do, say, want to talk about that we haven't been through. And that's sometimes it amazes me. Adults say, well, I don't know what they're talking about. I don't know how to help them. Well, gosh, we were all young one time, you know. And you said something that I've always made sure to remember. When students come in with an issue, not to just blow them off, but to make it important, because at age 20, it is important. Can I share one example with you?
Yeah, of course.
One time, a while back, I was here at Wayland. This must have been 15, 16 years ago, 17 years ago. I had a student, and I knew him, and I knew his girlfriend. They had both. I don't think she had been in my class, but I knew him. I've got to know him well, like I've got to know you well, yes. Right? And I think we even went out to eat a few times. Anyway, so they were dating. They're supposed to be getting married. I mean, it was that kind of relationship. It was a marriage relationship. Well, one morning, I think I had class at 8 o'clock. I don't remember, but I know I was here very early, about 7:30. He's waiting for me. And he's like, can I talk to you? I said, yeah. Comes to my office, and he just starts crying. Just lets it go. And he told me, he goes, we broke up. We were supposed to be married. And just for an instant, I told myself, "Oh my Lord, come on! You're gonna find another person." But I quickly caught myself. I said, "No, no, hold on. You were 19 once, and it hurts more at 19, especially if it's your first love." And I had to tell myself, "Come on! When you were 19, you wanted somebody to listen to you and to care for you." And I've never forgotten that moment when it was, I don't know, like I said, sometimes it's just God touching you, or saying, "Hey, pay attention." And I learned slowly that your problems are important as they were for me when I was your age. And so that's so important for me to be there for y'all. Why? Because somebody was there for me. I can tell you a million stories when I needed somebody to talk to, and somebody was there, and they understood, and they talked to me, and they listened. And I've come to realize that most people just need somebody to listen to them, a shoulder to cry on, and to know that somebody relates and understands. And so that's why it's important for me. And again, I've got to emphasize the fact that it's just something natural within me. And I think the older I've gotten, and I've told you this, the older I've gotten, I see y'all as my kids, as my children. And so now I see it, and you hear me, I call y'all Mijo all the time, and so it's just important that y'all know that somebody is there for you. And that's, when y'all come in here, it's just come natural. There's nothing that I do. It's just natural. Somebody comes in here, I put everything away, because at that moment, you are the most important person to me in my life. And I want you to be able to carry that with you, so that someday maybe y'all can give back to somebody else who needs somebody as well.
Yeah, I really like how your passions come so naturally to you. So a lot of people, let's just say, because since I've been an athlete most of my years in school, you're passionate about something before you work hard at it, and it comes from there. But the fact that you want to help people, you want to impact their life in some way, the most positive way that you can. I like how all that just comes naturally to you. I remember back in middle school for me, when I was a little chubbier and a little more compacted in, and I wasn't good at sports yet. I remember I thought for a second that just my talent was just being a good friend, because my friends would come to me with their problems and all that kind of stuff. And now I try to do the same, just because I've gone through things in life, because me putting myself into situations from being a teenager and all that kind of stuff. And I now try to help my friends who are younger than me and might be going through things and thinking about doing things that they shouldn't, because I know that, hey, this isn't the right way to do it. There's better ways to do it. Just breathe. You're upset right now. Things that I wish I would have done when I was younger, And of course, I'm only 20 years old, but by younger, I mean the 5 years or 3 years that I have on people that are younger than me, Exactly. And it's so crazy that how you see things differently. My dad always says, when you're 15, you see things through a 15-year-old's eyes. That's when you're 20, you see things through a 20-year-old's eye. When you're 30, you're going to see things differently even more, So all that kind of stuff really does impact people. And I've had a lot of great teachers, great mentors to teach me, hey, this is the right way. And if you listen to me, you'll be successful in this area, Exactly. So, I mean, huge shout out to my coach, my high school coach, Coach Conger. I remember I couldn't play football my senior year because I had gone through basic with the military. And when I came back, I was in there for the summer trainings, and I was in there for spring training, things like that. So when I got back, I was walking out of the building. I was kind of bummed out because, it's my senior year. I want to be in some sort of athletics.
Sure.
And he saw me, and he was like, hey, I thought you were playing football, blah, blah. And I was like, no, I can't. And then he told me, he didn't even ask me. He told me just, you're going to go down to the registrar's office, tell him Coach Conger said it's fine, and then you're going to wrestle. I'll see you in the morning. Right. And I was like, dude, I've never wrestled before. And he goes, don't worry, I got you. And then, man, the way he impacted me was the fact that he showed me what hard work gives you, Yeah. And mostly in a sport like that. But back to influencing people, I mean, I just had to share that story because that's how much he influenced me.
Absolutely.
Let's kind of end the podcast with your message to people out there who don't see things through a lot of positive eyes, maybe they have gone through so much hardship that they don't want to or let the negativity take over. And then a message out to the people who just are in a position of influence, and what your message to them would be about how they could influence youth or the people around them the best.
Well, I guess to those who are going through some difficulties in life and negative parts of life, I think for me, I guess would be number one, to seek out somebody who cares. Don't try to deal things with things on your own, because we can't. We can't. Look, there's times even myself that I go through problems. Those problems never end. We all need somebody to bounce ideas off of, somebody to listen to us, somebody to care. And even though we don't think about it, you feel your life is, just incomplete. There is somebody who cares. There is somebody there who will listen to you. Seek those people out. You hear this a lot, Fernando, and I guess, do your best to surround yourself with positive people. Yes. Because it's a fact of life. You don't have to be a rocket science to say that if you're around negative people all the time, then you're going to become just like them. It's a fact of life. We tend to become a lot like the people that are around us. And so you want to surround yourself with people who that are going to support you, be there for you, care for you. And don't let one thing get you down. Try to see the positive. And what I always do with students is when they come in here, anytime, even if students do something wrong in the classroom, I don't know if you've experienced it or heard me. If you're going through hard times and difficult times, all of those are learning experiences in life. Someday you will be a better person. But again, find solutions, find people, find your parents, find someone to talk to. Don't try to deal with issues on your own, because we can't. As human beings, we can't. There's so many things that we just can't. We need somebody to guide us. We were talking earlier, it makes me think about sometimes when we talk to people, students come and tell us stuff. You've heard the old adage, you want to go down this road? Dude, I've been down that road. Trust me, don't go. Go to that road. Listen to those people. Listen to what adults tell you. Because if we're telling you something, it's most likely because we did it and the consequences were bad. Yeah. So we don't want you to go through the same consequences that we went through. It reminds me also, sometimes students have told me how wise I am. No, I'm not wise. It's experience. I did lots of dumb things in life where I got experience. So, Fernando, I guess one of the things I always tell students is like, no, look, life is hard. Don't expect life to be perfect. I think sometimes we're bombarded with so much on social media and things about how great your life can be. Well, yeah, I hope life does have some good moments, but life is going to have a lot of bad moments. And don't expect your life to always be perfect. Prepare yourself for those hard times. Like I've told you in class, you're going to have those valleys. We all will. We're going to have those valleys, but work hard to always try to have some good stuff. Of course, there's times in our lives when we just get totally down and out. I mean, that is a fact of life. Such things have happened that, you end up homeless, or you get in trouble or something like that. Well, even then, find solutions. Work. Don't just give in. I know people have heard that a million times. Don't just give in. But if you can really tell yourself, well, let me find somebody to help me. Let me go down this route. Let me try this instead there. But really, really don't give up. Don't expect perfection. Yeah. Don't expect that you're going to be able to do everything, get everything that you want in life and do everything, because it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen there. You just do the best in life. Give the best that you have of yourself, and search out opportunities to make yourself a better person. And I have to mention, if you're a believer, I know not everybody is. I've got to be realistic. Stay close to God. Stay close to your faith, and nurture that faith. For those who are in positions of influence, I think if there was one thing, Fernando, is to care, to listen, to be there. And to know that we have an incredible ability to help others. And I hate to say it, but we do have an incredible power when somebody comes to us. To take the time, put things away for a moment. If somebody wants to talk to you, it's not going to hurt me to put away my grade book for a moment, to put away my grading for 30 minutes if another needs to talk to me or somebody else, And I think just those moments that we spend with those students, just caring, a simple touch on the pat on the shoulder, a simple hug, a simple, hey, how can I help you? It's going to make a tremendous difference in somebody's life. We don't think about it, and we shouldn't think of it as, hey, well, I'm going to make a difference. No, just do what comes natural. Don't try to do something that's not natural, to sit there and say, find ways. Do what comes from the heart. That's probably one thing that I always try to do. I don't try to find, well, how am I going to help this person? No, I let my heart guide me. Let my heart guide me, and let me show love to my fellow human being there, because that's the greatest way we're going to impact. If there's any advice, that's the only one I would give. Let your heart guide you, and when somebody comes to you, make them the center of the universe for those 30 minutes that you have them in your office, because you could save a life, because you could change somebody's way of doing things. You could help them out. We never know. We really never know, Fernando. We really never know. Even you at your age, when somebody comes to you, we really never know what the consequences are going to be when we try to help somebody. Most of the time, it's going to be something positive, but we never realize what a great thing we did. Even though for us, it's just, oh man, I was just there for them.
Yeah.
But think about the times when somebody was there for you. What a difference it made in your life. So it doesn't take a lot of energy. Just be there for them.
Dr. Mora, thank you so much for this message, for taking the time to have this interview with me. And thank you again for a week ago giving me that extra push I needed to start this. I came to you with this idea, and I told you, I was like, man, people think that success comes from having a million friends on Facebook, a million followers on Instagram, this and that. And I want to show them that successful people do exist outside of that, because their society's going so much virtual now. Everything's through Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all that kind of stuff. And people see that and think that's what they need to do, when in reality, there's successful people left and right. We walk by them all the time, and we just don't realize that because we don't see it on social media. But thank you again for giving me that motivation to start this. I really appreciate you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
This message, guys, is to those people thinking about going into that education field, or anyone that's in position to affect anyone else's life. They're for everybody. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and listening. Again, please leave a comment, subscribe, rate, and I'm always trying to improve. But I will see you guys on the next episode.
Got a lot of pressure on me, ain't gonna lie about it. I could grab a piece of coal and make a diamond out it.